Aw man, it's that time again. Another Saturday, another My Hero Academia Season 5 review. I'm excited to see how everything turns out this week, since last week was such a masterclass episode, especially in the animation department. However, I will keep those expectations in check because it is hard for me to believe that we'd get two back-to-back superbly animated episodes. But who knows, maybe I'll be surprised. Anyways, let's run down last week's episode as a quick refresher before hopping into the newest episode on our hands. Last time, we saw the conclusion of the third match, mostly focusing on Ida and Todoroki. Ida showed off some really impressive speed with his brand new Recipro Turbo, and Todoroki really turned up the heat. However, all this ended up being in vain as they were taken out in a last-ditch effort attack from Mudman and Tetsu. With the fight being left between Pony and Shoji, the former realized that she was unable to win, but refused to let her class lose by stalling out the clock, ending the match in a draw. While some students found the match anticlimactic, sometimes that's just how it goes in the world of heroes. You fight until you can't anymore. Shortly after the match, the penultimate battle had begun, and that's where we are now. So now with the refresher out of the way, we can finally hop into our fourth battle. Right off the bat, we see Class A and B on the move. On Class B side of things, there seems to be a little bit of worry. Bondo points out that the terrain that they're in is to the advantage of Sero and Jiro, while Awase points out that Sato and Bakugo are super powerful, forming a very well balanced team. This means a devastating loss if Class B loses the initiative. So as Tokage says, the early bird gets to worm, and they move out. Vlad King is yet again going a bit overboard with the Class B bias, this time belittling the win Class A got solely so he could make the argument that his class is actually the leader among the two, despite the tied score. This doesn't sit well with the Class A students naturally, and even All Might and Midnight chime in about his overbearing love. Eraser steps in to calm his students down and questions if they're going to act that way every time they fail in a real battle, pointing out that the simple fact is that Class B did have better countermeasures and strategies planned. Monoma starts with his antagonizing, but is fortunately put in his place by Kendo. The dude really does have some mental issues. Cutting to All Might in Midnight, he acknowledges how strong Class B has gotten, while also pointing out that Class A still has a lot left to show. He especially is looking forward to seeing what Bakugo does. Well, it doesn't look like he's changed much, as he's already yelling at people and bossing them around, much to the dismay of his teammates. We flash back to right before the match started, with Bakugo telling them his plan, or rather his demands. He leads them all, while Jiro regularly checks for the enemy's location with her quirk. Sarah believes that it would probably be better for them to just play things safely and wait for an opening as the other team specializes in counters. But Bakugo contests that by saying that's exactly why they have to make the first move. He seems to also have the early bird strategy in mind. He tosses a few grenades to his teammates for just in case situations, noting that they're not too powerful, but they could definitely be useful. As we cut back to the action, Bakugo sees something and has Jiro scout for it immediately. As Jiro uses her quirk, we can see that she's picking up many different noises, making it hard for her to locate them. But she soon realizes that she's been totally bested. Next to Bakugo is Tokage's floating dismembered mouth. Her quirk is called Lizard Tail Splitter, which allows her to split any part of her body up into different pieces that she can completely control and move around, with 50 being the upper limit of her quirk. Maybe Pony should hit up Blizzardy for some lessons, seeing that she can only control 4 horns at a time. As Bakugo tries to avoid the onslaught of this girl's body parts, Bondo comes out with a trap, his glue squall. He covers all of Sero's tape with this quirk. Semadyne allows him to shoot out glue and control how quickly it dries. Gotta say, this kid is a bit more unfortunate than Fukudashi. I mean, sure, his head is just a speech bubble, but Plamo straight up looks like one of the Reggies. I mean, does he see out of the holes he shoots glue from? Are those even eyes? I don't know, but what I do know is that he scares me. Anyways, immediately after Plamo's quirk introduction, we get Jack Mantis's introduced. His quirk is razor sharp, and it allows him to produce blades anywhere on his body. Basically, he's just a better version of that villain Kirishima took down of the Shi Hasakai arc, and he didn't even need drugs to get there. As Jack Mantis slashes up the pipes, we hear the inner monologues of Lizardy. Their plan of throwing off Jiro's search with a bunch of noise while covering the surrounding area with glue seems like it was an easy, straightforward plan. However, what this Class B team did not expect was for Bakugo to actually think about others instead of just himself. But as he, All Might, and Deku discussed, they'll save people to win and win to save people. Tough luck, Jack Mantis. While Jiro was appreciative of Bakugo saving her, that doesn't mean his personality has changed, as he'd rather his teammates shut up and find their opponents. His resolve? Despite this being an exercise, is to have a complete victory in every fight. It's definitely a good resolve to have, especially if your main goal in life is to surpass the likes of All Might. Back from the spectator's point of view, Monoma thinks something is wrong with his eyes as he can't really believe that Bakugo actually protected someone. He has a bit of a meltdown from this profound change in Bakugo's character, and then we get right back into the battle. Realizing the situation they're in, Class B decides to retreat, with the plan of continuous ambushes when the opponent presents itself. Jiro tries to locate them, but is still being thrown off by Lizardy. However, she points out that there are less of her pieces making noise and that they're all moving far away. Since it's fairly obvious a team with Bakugo would make him the leader with the others following him, they believe if they can make Bakugo mess up along the way, that it'll be the end for the rest of the team. Which isn't really untrue. The rest of the team is skilled. However, when working with someone like Bakugo as your leader, you would just have to go along with what he says if you wanted any form of cooperation. Bakugo immediately heads after Plamo, but is ambushed by the Class B member we haven't seen in action the whole match, Awase. His quirk, Weld, allows him to weld things together at the molecular level, but only if he touches the things that he wants to weld. With Awase's quick attack, Bakugo is stuck to the surrounding pipes by his gauntlets and back. Fortunately for him, Sato had his back and broke him out. He pursues Awase, who goes on the defensive as Bakugo gets closer. But this was a ruse to allow Sero and Jiro to get closer. Bakugo told his teammates that he'd save them when they were in danger, but also to have his back when he needed them. With Jiro's heartbeat surround, she's able to break apart Awase's defenses and capture him. Bakugo then creates yet another opportunity for Sato to capture Plamo, as he needs to help Sero out with Jack Mantis. As he tapes him up, Sero notices Lizardy's body pieces flying by. He mentions that after being separated from her for a long time, the pieces stop moving and regenerate on her main body. He doesn't know for sure, but believes that she cannot regenerate indefinitely, and that she'd probably eventually grow tired after having to. So, he decides to make this happen by taping up some of her body parts, making them unable to return to her. Not before sending her a gift though. Turns out, those grenades did come in handy, as Sero taped one up to a returning chunk of her body, giving her a nice explosion, which led right into another one, straight from the source. And in less than 5 minutes, Class A ends up with a flawless victory. Walking back from his evaluation, All Might tells Bakugo that his fight gave him chills. Being that he cannot just take a compliment, he decides to insult him in return. Deku tries to give him props as well, but naturally, he has to be a dick to him. But I guess it's in his own loving way. With Class A's second win though, it is now impossible for Class B to win. This supposedly does not bother Monoma, despite watching his eye twitch, and proclaims that he is happy that Bakugo has grown and become less immature, and that his desire for people to understand that Class B's way of doing things is just better even if they do lose. With the fifth and final match about to start, they all try to come up with the best plan possible, with Class B feeling like they need to take the approach of the fourth team, being how similar the teams are in terms of balance. Shinso believes making Deku their top priority is the best route to go, so long as they use his quirk in conjunction with Monoma's copy. Monoma is worried about the possibility of drawing a blank though. Regardless of that, he agrees that Deku needs to be the priority, so they all put their faith in Shinso. As for Class A, Ashido, Uraraka, and Mineta feel like they're at a disadvantage with the quirks they have, and that they'll just need to do their best to find the other team and make them fall for a trap. But Deku comes through with a suggestion that he be the bait for the other team. They are a bit worried because of his quirk acting up, but Deku claims he's feeling fine, and he especially feels fired up after watching Bakugo get such an impressive victory. With all of that, the final match can finally begin. Well, next week that is. Overall, I thought this was a pretty solid episode. While I was really hoping for a super impressive battle like last week's, this one was impressive in its own right, as it only took about half an episode for a team to win, whereas all the other battles took about 3 times as long. Next week should probably be really exciting, as we're finally getting in the Deku's battle. And as the saying goes, the best is saved for last. But what did you all think of this episode? Be sure to let me know in the comments down below. And while you're at it, be sure to leave a like as well as to show me some support. With that said, I'm Mystic Sage, and I'll see you all next time for some more awesome anime content.